I think you need to mute, yes. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming to CityU University of Hong Kong. I'm sorry for a little bit of a hustle, okay, because we are in the middle of a construction, a process converting some of our former offices into wet labs. That is what I know from the plan, all right? So there is a bit of a construction noise, hopefully not too much. And then I'm so glad that you successfully navigated to this room, okay? I myself lost my way. Oh, by the way, almost lost my way, and so it took me quite a while to come back here. I'm Linda Lee, okay, and my colleagues, Professor Liang and Professor Phyllis Mo here. We are very happy to share our research findings today. To you here, some of you are here with us online and on campus, and some others of you are online. We have recently completed a study which is, to our knowledge, the first ever attempt to estimate the greenhouse emissions of Hong Kong's financial sector, and which covers finance emissions. So in other words, not only the direct emissions, okay, and the energy consumed by the operations, but also as a result, embedded in the investment activities financed by the financial institutions. So that is the objective of the project. Well, I think the importance of the estimation is self-evident because Hong Kong is an international financial center. So, the activities of the financial sector, it's of very important significance as part of Hong Kong's economic fabric, contributing to our GDP substantially, and of course, as a result, okay, it would have play a very important role to our vision and the objective of reducing carbon emission and arriving at a more livable city and environment. This project is, we appreciate the funding from Sunrise Project and also the matching fund from Research Grant Council of Hong Kong. We benefited from the support, and so of course the responsibility is entirely upon our shoulders, right? So any errors or mistakes, it's ours and ours alone, right? But at the same time, we would like to acknowledge the support and assistance of quite a number of individuals, okay, so apart from the three of us here. So we have an able team of research assistants and a team of able research graduate students. In fact, also taught master students as well. So we benefited from their wisdom, dedication, diligence, of course, okay, of our young people. And of course, in the course of our work, we also discussed with some of our colleagues in the academia and also beyond in the NGO sector and in the industries, okay? But I think importantly, today is the first occasion when we systematically lay out our findings. So you are actually our major group to hear of our results, and we actually expected and put it this way, we hope to be able to benefit, okay, from your comments, criticisms, and suggestions, of course, okay, to improve, because we all know that this is the first ever attempt, will not be perfect, must not be perfect, all right? And then we would like to learn from the process. So without further ado, maybe before that, we actually have a little statistics about the registered participants. Shall we share our? Okay, yeah. So this is what we just did before lunchtime. Okay, so it looks a bit rough, but the dots represents you, okay, and your neighbors. Each of the dot represents each of the registered participant, and then the colors represents either the sector in the first diagram, and the second one represents where you are based. Okay, so so you can find that more of our participants are from the academia and also the NGOs, but also we have a good proportion from the private sector and some from the public sector. And in terms of regions, you know, most of us are from based in Hong Kong, but we also do have people overseas. Okay, so basically they are literally overseas, so they are joining us online from EU, UK, from places like you know, Vietnam, Singapore, and mainland China. So so we are very pleased to have that this reception, because first of all, this is not a, strictly speaking, it's not a public seminar, okay? So because we intended to solicit in-depth comments from certain groups, okay? So we actually have a limited promotion and targeted, you know, so we did not spread it out too widely. And we have not basically extended, we have not included the government in this round of consultation, because we would like to hear from you guys first, okay? And then we can, then the next step we would discuss further with the government and the regulators on the ideas and the proposals. Yeah, so maybe we should move on, okay? That is the introduction and the background. And the first part, what should we do? Oh, we should talk about the methodology and the findings, okay? And then after that, we will have some quick discussions, okay? In case you have any burning questions after hearing from Dong Liang's presentation. And then we will move on to the second part of the presentation. Phyllis Mo would briefly present our policy recommendations. And then we will have a second round of discussions, okay? Then we can discuss on whatever issues and questions and suggestions that you may have on the study. So before you come, hopefully you have the opportunity to read our 3 policy papers, okay? So I hope, but even if you have not, I hope the presentations that follow would be able to introduce to you the gist of our findings. Yeah, Dong Liang, on to you. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for Linda's briefing and okay, so thank you for Linda's briefing and also a warm greeting to all the guests and also colleagues and friends come to the CityU. I think somebody open the computer. Oh, now it's okay, I think. Still something I think opens. This is the video icon. Your computer. Okay, so now, so I think now it's okay. Thank you for Linda briefing and also greeting to all the guests and the colleges come to CityU. I will on behalf of the team, I will present the major findings and methodologies, how we can account for the carbon emission in financial sector in Hong Kong. So I also thanks my colleague Yeung and also actually we discussed a lot of times in the past months. So here I hope I can also have your comments and some recommendations for our major findings. Okay, so before we go to the content, actually I want to show you the outline. We will present maybe the major part will include the academia part, how we can account for the emission from financial sector based on the accounting for the supply chain carbon footprint. And also we will present our major method and data to account for the emission in the three types of the financial activities, which is loans and mortgage and also asset management, and also how we can collect and verify the parameters for our calculation. And also we will analyze the major fundings and also to present some brief policy discussions for the future work. Okay, so before we go to the major funding, actually I want to show something from the academy, how we can really to promote on the true transition and sound transition towards on the carbon treaty. So here will be how the financial sector will play a major role to promote on the transition for this part. So this one will be the basic scheme. Actually, we can see, so the transition will only happen when we can realize on the shift from the cost mitigation from the fossil fuel towards the lower cost on the renewable energy or new energy. So here we can see the market and economy will play a major role to realize on this kind of the cost minimization. For example, based on to internalize and allocate for the pollution and also to support on the market and for the renewable energy, and also help to realize on the most active technologies, and how try to realize on the cost shift to shift from the fossil fuel towards the new energy. This is the major function how the financial sector can play a major role. So that's why if we look into their activity, we try to find some information to see how much and why they can do the right work to facilitate to the kind of transition. Okay, so based on this part, actually we will do the accounting for the emission for financial sectors. So here will be the background theory. We know we can divide the carbon emission into three major parts. We say the scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. The one here will be the on-site emission, mainly from the on-site consumption activity, and will generate direct emission to the environment. And also scope 2 emission will be come from the purchased energy, for example, the power and the steam and the heat and something like that. And the scope 3 emission is very complex. It's the supply chain carbon emission. It comes from the different activity happened in the whole supply chain for the different activity, for example, the commute for staff, and also maybe some business trip, and also the financial activities. So here actually based on the definition on the 3 scope, we can define 2 major emissions in the financial sectors. The part 1 will be, we do have the finance emission. That is one part of the scope 3 emission. So it is the indirect emission and can be related to the loans and also underwriting and investment and any other forms of the financial activities. And this indirect emission will be the result of the conducting different activity happened by the financial sector. So it is a part of the scope 3 emissions. And also we also have the scope 1, 2, and 3 emission for all the financial sector and companies. For example, the office consumption and also the consumption for purchase power and heat. So if we account for all the scope 1, 2, and 3 emission together, it will become the financial emission or the emission for the total financial institute. So for this reason, actually, we will account for the 2 parts. One part will be the finance emission, one part on scope 3 emission, and also all the scope 3 emissions for all the parties, the boundary and the behind theory to support on the accounting for the carbon emissions. Okay, so based on this theory, we will go to the scoping and also boundary setting for this research. So we will calculate on the emission for the 2 parts, the 3 major parts on the financial activities. One part will be the loans from the business loan and mortgage from the bank, and second part will be the asset management from the asset managers. And also for scope, we will account for the 2 parts. One part will be the finance emission, that is the based on estimation, and second part will be the scope 1, 2, and part of 3 scope emission, also named the operational emission. So if we can compile these 2 parts together, we can realize on the full scope accounting for the carbon emission in the financial sector. It is the boundary and also the setting for the scope issues. And based on this, the setting on the boundary and scope, we can apply different detailed technology to support on the accounting and the calculation. We mainly refer to the PCF guidance and apply them into different conditions. For example, we do have the data limitation, so we have to make some adjustment when we apply the method in the PCF. Okay, so here we go to the detailed methodology for each part. So business loan actually is mainly come from the emission will mainly be accounted based on the 3 of the major parameters, saying we have the outstanding investment, the amount of the loans, and also we also have the turnover ratio for different for different sectors, and also the emission factor also for different sectors. So we can account for the emission based on the application for these three major data in Hong Kong SPAN. This is the method for the business loans. The key part will be in Hong Kong, we have it's a little bit difficult to find a very detailed information and data for the turnover ratio and also the factor. So we have to borrow some data from the papers and also from other reports. And also we even have to do something by ourselves to estimate the localized turnover ratio based on for example, the value in different sectors in Hong Kong. This is some the major challenge we have faced when we are calculating on the carbon emissions. And also for the mortgage, also based on the method will be in principle we account for the emission based on for example the building emission for each building, and also the loan value for the building, and also maybe the ratio between the loan value to the building housing price. This is the basic the fundamental method to account for the building related carbon emission. But in the real condition, actually, in Hong Kong, it's very difficult to get a single building carbon emission. So in operation, we apply the different approach. We use the emission factor from the construction sector and also the related turnover ratio to estimate on the total emission from the mortgage. This will make some adjustment to account for the emission from the mortgage part, mainly due to the data limitation in Hong Kong. So actually, in the future, we will apply the research to account for the building emission based on this equation. Means we have the single building carbon emission and also allocate them based on the value on the mortgage and also the housing price. This is the metadata condition for the mortgage part. The third major part will be asset management. Note we may take the bonds and also we make some investment. The portfolio will do affect on the carbon emission. So here the basic principle will be you make the money investment into different sector, and the sector which you make the investment have the different condition and nature for the higher or lower carbon emission. For example, manufacturing will have the higher emission and the high tech will have lower emission. So if you invest into different sector, it will result a lot of difference on the final emission. So here actually, if you look into the method on the PCF, we will see the portfolio information will be the foundation to account for the emission from the asset management. So here we need to know the details on the by sector amount of the asset management and also the by sector emission factor and also by sector turnover ratio. But again, in the operation, it's very difficult in Hong Kong to find the portfolio information. So here we also make some adjustment. For example, so we apply the different approach. We estimate the emission intensity based on the sample data and estimate the total emission based on the estimated the emission intensity and maybe the amount on as mentioned to account for the total emission. So here will be the adjustment and also the method to accounting the carbon emission for asset measurement. So here we'll present the major three parts, the method and data. Then I will show you some results and how we can perform the accounting of the emission in details. So here we collect and calculate the emission factor by sector and also turnover ratio by sector based on some mixed data source. They mainly come from database like Excel base, and also we also make some localization on the factors from the true data in Hong Kong. And the by sector emission factor and by sector turnover ratio will be the foundation to account for the by sector loans and the mortgage and also maybe the asset management for their carbon emission. This is the basic flow to account for the carbon emission in different financial activities and also for different sectors. So here will be the you can imagine the emission factor and the turnover ratio will be the key message for us to calculate. So maybe again it will drive to the data limitation if we try to improve in the near future. Okay, so based on the results and also based on methodology, we will present the major results. So here will be the carbon emission from the business loans and also the finance emission in Hong Kong. So based on the data, according to the data from Hong Kong MA, we can have the total business loans in the bonds in Hong Kong on 2021 will be about actually the huge value, and also based on the calculation method, we can account for the carbon emission for this part. The financed emission for this part will be about 31.6 million tons CO2 emission. So it is nearly the annual emission in Hong Kong, which is 33 million tons. And based on the different sectors and also based on different by sector carbon emission factor, we can calculate the emission intensity will be about 89 and maybe 90 tons CO2 emission per $1 million. This is the intensity issue. So here will be the bigger picture to show the emission for the loans in Hong Kong. And if we look into the operational emission, and if we look into the mortgage, again, actually, we can also to calculate the emission for mortgage in Hong Kong. So according to data in Hong Kong MA, again, we can find total the mortgage in Hong Kong will be about $22,000 million per year in 2021. And based on the carbon emission factor in construction sector, and also based on term or retail for the mortgage, we can account the corresponding carbon emission for mortgage will be about 2.96 million tons. Actually, it's also a huge value for the carbon emission, annual carbon emission in Hong Kong. So here you can show the comparison between the carbon emissions for different by sector loans, for example, the mortgage and the property loan and the wholesale loan and manufacturing and transportation and others. So we can see actually the major part of the carbon emission will come from the loans to the manufacturing, the high carbon intensity. So in the future, we have the potential to reduce carbon emission if we can redirect the loan to some high-tech sector, for example, the green energy or even to the renewable energy. So here we can see the funding and how we can use the fundings to direct on the future policy making and the initiatives. And also we also calculate, so we also collect the data to present on the emission from the operational means scope 1, 2, and part of 3. So this one we view the data from the report data from the Hong Kong banks. So here we can see the operational emission, scope 1, 2, and 3 emission from their reported ESG and TWD report will be this amount will be about 0.4 million tons, not so big amount. And if we compare to the reported value on the maybe the emission, and also compared to our calculated the finance value, means the carbon emission from supply chain, we can see there's a huge gap. It means maybe in current reporting on the Scope 3 emission, it is actually a lot of the significant underestimation is happened. So we in the future we try to improve this reporting to offer people a more clear and incentive for the information for banks to think about how they can take their actions to redirect their loans to reduce carbon emission. So this one will be the fundings for the emission for the banks and for their loans activities. So in total, the summary will be according to the above the calculation and also assessment. We can see on 2021, the total finance emission means the supply chain carbon footprint from the loans and mortgage will be account to the 31.6 million tons, actually a huge value. And the reported the operational emission from the major bank will be about 0.4 million tons, and the total emission from the loans will be 32 million tons. This value is very close to the Hong Kong's annual physical emission, which is 33 million tons in 2021. And also, if we compare the value, we can see the disclosed Scope 3 emission is significant underestimated, mainly due to the, for example, due to the difficulty to apply the methodology, and also due to data limitation for the bank, so they are difficult to report their true data. That is also something we try to improve in the near future. And also, if we look into the by sector emission of the loans, we can also to see the major emission happened in the manufacturing. So in the future, there's some potential to reduce the emission if we can redirect our loans to support on the renewable and the low carbon business, for example, the high tech and the green tech sectors, which will support on the true transition and the true decarbonization of our economy. Also, that also should be the role the bank play for the future contribution towards on the carbon credit. Okay, so here will be the results on the banks and the loans emission for in Hong Kong. And the second part will be the asset management. It's actually even difficult for us to account and the calculation. The one condition will be in Hong Kong, we have some special condition compared to the market in Japan, in USA, and in European Union. Why? Because the FSC actually they didn't require the asset manager to report the full information on the portfolio. We didn't have the sector information in Hong Kong for the asset management. So this, it will affect our calculation. So this time we have to adopt a hybrid approach to estimate the emission based on the different the aspect. So we do the calculation based on the A and B approach. So for those who will report their portfolio information, they can account for the carbon intensity based on their portfolio information by sector carbon emission, and also by sector turnover ratio. And also for those didn't report their portfolio information, have to find their reported carbon intensity information from the reports, for example, the ESG and the TWD report. So, and then we can use the A and B value as the benchmarking to make some weighted aggregation to have the general average, the emission intensity, and multiply the total value value of the asset management, then we can have the big picture to show the total emission in Hong Kong for the asset management part. This is the major scheme mainly due to the data limitation, and we try to do some academic way to resolve the data issues in the calculation and accounting for this part of the carbon emissions. Okay, so here will be the result to show the carbon emission and their accounting and the details for asset management. As we mentioned about, we do the two steps. One step will be we calculate the carbon intensity based on the portfolio information. So here we collect the major two forms to have their portfolio information. You can see their portfolio of investment, very detailed investment into different sector, and for each sector, we can have the by sector carbon emission factor and by sector turnover ratio. And based on the by sector information, we can make the aggregated, the weighted data to show their average carbon intensity. For example, these two will be based on their portfolio information. We can calculate their average carbon intensity will be 160 and 119 tons CO2 emission per $1 million. So it's the data we can have maybe from the firms that have with the portfolio information. So we can do the bottom-up approach to very carefully to account for the emission. This is so of course, this one will be the perfect way to calculate on the carbon emission, but the condition will be for the most firm, we didn't have this data. We only have their general data. So we also explore the emission intensity data from their reporting information. For example, we also collect the 5 firms they reported their carbon intensity in their reports, like the TCFD or the ESG report. And here we list so here you can see their reported emission is very diverse and also have the high gap. Right? So maybe they are range from the 45 tons per $1 million to as high as the 280 tons. So the bias will also affect on the calculation, but I have to do this one. And based on so now we have the calculated 2 firms, the data, and also we have collected the data from the 5 reported firms. So we can use the 7 data to make some average on the carbon intensity. So here we can have the value for the carbon intensity will be the $140, 40 tons per $1 million. So we will use this value to estimate the whole amount of asset management to calculate on carbon emission for Hong Kong. This is the step 2. And based on the estimation on the carbon intensity, we can estimate the total value will be, actually it's very huge, it will be about the 430 million tons. That is nearly the 13 times of the Hong Kong's actually the annual emission, because the amount is actually very big. For the asset management amount is very huge. And also, we also explore the Scope 1 and 2 emission from the reported information. So here we collected 12 the firms reported data on their Scope 1, 2, and part of 3. And here we can see the details information. And the total emission for the reported data will be about 1.25 million tons. Again, you can see it's very much smaller than the financial emission. Means there's the big, maybe the gap between the true emission and also the reported emission. It's also something we try to type and resolve in the near future. Okay, so based on the estimated financial emission for the asset manager, and also based on the reported maybe the operational emission, we can have the total emission will be about maybe the 430 million tons CO2 emission in Hong Kong on 2021, and 13 times for the total emission in Hong Kong in 2021, and the average the intensity will be about 140 tons CO2 emission per $1 million. And also, therefore, we can see the fund will be, we can see the Scope 3 emission is much unestimated, and also due to the limitation, actually the portfolio information in Hong Kong is very limited. So it's also the big challenge in the future. We have to tackle to have a more accurate calculation on the carbon emission. So here will be the major results on the carbon emission for the asset management. Okay, so based on this one, we also want to propose maybe something in the future. We know in Hong Kong we have the condition that is we didn't have so much details on the portfolio information. We also have the detailed information for firms. So we have to make some approach to account for the carbon emission based on the supply chain carbon footprint. So here we propose in the future we can we can use maybe some model approach to estimate on the carbon emission. For example, we can apply the life cycle assessment and the input of the model to estimate on the by sector carbon emission, and in the supply chain, we can offer some complementary information for the reported data. Also, we try to realize in the near future. Okay, so I think I will stop here, and I think maybe the Linda will propose maybe the policy side, how we can use this result to support on the future application for finance sector. So we do believe in the future the finance sector can play a very major role for the true foundation. That is why we actually propose the carbon emission as some benchmark information to support this kind of the initiatives in the near future. Okay, so thank you so much, and also welcome your comments and any of the questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Dong Liang. Well, before we go to Phyllis' presentation on recommendations, I think first of all, any questions to Dong Liang first? The focus of his presentation is actually on the findings, okay? That is, you know, and how do we do it, okay? How do we do it? So the methodology and the results, that's what he focused on. Yes?
Hi, thank you. I'm very interested in the difference in boundary, but thanks for using for the public disclosures, and then the boundary that you've used, which is obviously including a lot more in scope 3. Do you have any explanation for that, or is that coming up in the later part of the discussion?
I think this figure will show you actually. So if we look into the report by the bank, actually they usually will report on the list information. This part, I think, they usually reported in their ESG or TTFD reporting. That is this part. So this part will be reported by them. That is maybe the Scope 1 emission is on-site emission, office emission, and also Scope 2 will be purchased energy and power. The electricity, and also maybe some part of the Scope 3. For example, their commute for the staff and business trip and transportation. But this part is actually cannot be reported because it's very difficult to account. Even though they didn't know the information for this part. For example, how their USP will generate carbon emission, they don't know the information. So maybe they have to apply the method to calculate for this part of the emission. This is maybe the major challenge, I think, for the bank in the near future to report maybe their information, so as we can calculate for them to disclose this kind of information as well. This is a major challenge, I think, due to the scope definition and also due to the nature of the different part of the carbon emissions.
I just wanted to ask, when you calculate the finance emissions, when you're looking at the loans and investments in Hong Kong, or you're also looking at all the investments cross-border into the mainland and also around the world?
So data foundation will be, so we have the data from Hong Kong MA. So in scoping, actually, I think all the data will belong to Hong Kong-based data because it's a unified, the unified data from Hong Kong MA for loan and mortgage. Also, all the data will belong to the business in Hong Kong, I think.
Okay. And also for the asset
we also use the data from FSA, also belong to, I think.
Okay, so
yeah, I think the boundary is very clear for our calculation. We use the public data from Hong Kong MA for loans and also the data from FSA for asset management. Thank you so much.
Projects may not be in Hong Kong, right? Is that okay?
Hi, can I ask a question?
The projects are financed in Hong Kong, right?
because sometimes the MA.
Yeah, so I think it's supposed to be the one is financed in Hong Kong. The one maybe happened in other place, but the finance is Hong Kong. Yeah.
Financing in Hong Kong, but the project may not be in Hong Kong.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
So physical location of the project may not be in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
But finance through here, basically.
Yes,
Yeah, finance through here.
how would you account for double tax?
So I think the way is we try to use the same data from Hong Kong MA. It's our approach to unify the data source, maybe. But I don't know whether they have the overlap. That also happen.
Yeah. Theoretically, that could be. Yes, Alex.
Yeah, assuming the loan report by HKMA that would be applicable to Hong Kong companies. And so, and then assuming another like Hong Kong equity fund, which is managed by Hong Kong fund manager. So I just wonder if you have account for some kind of factors for some sort of overlapping of this carbon emissions, because some companies get the loan from the bank, and then also they belong to the constituent stock of the Hong Kong equity fund. So have you come across this kind of
so I think
that you might also need to discount it?
So I think it is possible, but the only way we can do is we try to use the unified data source from Hong Kong Mail. But I think maybe there will be some overlap happen. Maybe possible, yeah.
Yeah. So the short answer is, at this stage, we cannot deal with this. Okay.
We cannot open the black box for Hong Kong Mail because we only use their data, but we didn't see their data details.
Yes.
If the underlying projects could be from anywhere in the world, and when you calculate finance emissions, so the emission factor, you're assuming, like for example, all the companies in one sector they share one common emission sector.
By sector emission, the same factor for each sector, the same sector, like the interest, for example, manufacturing and transportation. There's some limitation, of course.
So like for example, two companies in China and the US, they have the same emission factor.
A different thing, so we use the localized carbon emission factors based on local data. For example, Hong Kong, we also make the localization on the carbon emission factors based on Hong Kong's the true emission data.
But if data is from HKMA, you have no idea what the underlying projects.
HKMA only have the financial data. They didn't have the carbon emission. They have the database to show the carbon emission factor from Excel base. They have the by region and by sector carbon emission factors. They can apply into the application calculation. Yeah. But one part will be in Hong Kong. Actually, Hong Kong only have the carbon factor for 4 sectors. It's a rough, I think. So maybe in the future we need to also have a more detailed data on carbon factor. It's also one way to improve our calculation. Yeah. So here is the carbon emission factor, maybe by different region and by different by sector. You can see, and we also make some localization based on Hong Kong's reported physical data to recalculate on carbon emission factor.
Sorry, it might be in your report somewhere. Did you does the real estate sector embodied emissions would include embodied emissions?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we have the mortgage. Yeah, mortgage.
The mortgage, you know, so when you calculate the real estate sector,
Right. Yeah.
The number does.
Yeah.
So again, I just want to focus on a bit more about the asset management sector. Assuming all are the local asset managers, when you look at SFC's portfolio, so they might also invest, not only limited to Hong Kong companies, but also like in Asia. So how would you account all the carbon emissions numbers along with this kind of country allocation? So I just because I have no clue about how we add the aggregate all different country portfolios and individual stock with respect to each local carbon emission, or rather you have a general factor to account.
It is not local carbon emission. It is the carbon emission actually is driven by Hong Kong investment to global life. It should be
that definition is Hong Kong investment.
To global business. Maybe happen in mainland China or also in the USA market.
So in other words, you have different emission number
factor. Right. But I think I only give the general data. I only have the total amount. They have much more details. So if we have the detail, we can also offer more detailed calculation. Also some future concerns. I think home SFC can improve to offer some portfolio information, so we can do this way actually to have the very detailed calculation. But now we have very few data like this kind of the information in Hong Kong. Only 2 you can see, but have actually hundreds of companies.
So in other words, the purpose actually is the capture Hong Kong as a financial center, right? So our banks, our asset management companies, they through the investment decisions, they may finance projects in Australia, in Africa, right? Who knows, right? So everywhere, right? So as long as those investments come from Hong Kong based, Hong Kong licensed financial institutions, they should be counted in this finance emissions. That's the purpose. Well, if no question at this moment, we can continue the discussion in a while, right? Or maybe I invite Phyllis to discuss a little bit, outline a little bit our policy recommendations.
Thank you. I think our recommendation basically are trying to answer some of your questions about the our calculation methodology, the boundary, etc.
Okay, so actually, I think just now Liang already described how we estimate the finance emission for business loan, mortgage, and also asset management. But during the process, we do encounter a lot of difficulties. Okay, so in this way is that we would try to focusing on those kind of difficulties that we have encountered during the whole process. We will try to make some recommendation aiming at how in the future that we can have how to close the gap or help the financial institution or users to understand how finance emission can be calculated, and the disclosed finance emission, how can it help the economy to switch from the high carbon emission economy to a low carbon emission economy to achieve the zero carbon objectives. Okay, so our first recommendation is I think really focusing on the try to fix the gaps that we have encountered during our calculation or during our estimation. The first one, of course, is about the data availability. So just now, when we're talking about the estimation, there are several key factors, okay, or key input data that we are required for those kind of estimation. The first one is the financial activity data. So for business loan, that the Hong Kong MA has provided quite a, and also including mortgage, that the Hong Kong MA has provided quite a complete figures for those loans, including the total amount and also the breakdown by sectors. Therefore, in this aspect, then for in estimating the finance emission for the business loan and mortgage, then for this one is pretty okay. Okay, but regarding the asset management, then actually there's no very few data regarding their investment portfolio. Okay, and although the Security and Future Commission also require the licensed institution to fill out a yearly questionnaire survey for their asset and wealth management activity. But for that survey, they only require the licensed institution to fill out what is the type of investment product and also the investment region. but there is no information about the investment amount by sector. Therefore, in this way, we are unable to obtain information by the sectorial breakdown to calculate the emission. Okay, and the other one, the other data is regarding the just now the emission factors, because for different industry or different sectors, the emission factors will be different. So far, in Hong Kong, we don't have a complete set of those kind of emission factors. So that for Liang, when we calculate, we need to rely on some of the global figures or borrow some figures from other regions. Okay, and the other one is the asset turnover ratio as well. This one is also a key factor that can help us to estimate the carbon emission. So in this sense is that we recommend that for example, regarding the financial activity data, we recommend the Hong Kong MA and SFC require all licensed financial institutions to disclose, okay, their investment by sector, okay, so that we can have this kind of data for calculation. And the other one is that because in Hong Kong so far we don't have a complete set of the asset turnover ratio, etc. So regulators can also compile and also develop a platform to disclose this kind of data, so that it can help all financial institutions, because we are going to disclose, okay. For example, for ESG reporting requirement, we are required to disclose the scope 3 emission. Okay, so this kind of data can help not just financial institution, but also all company that when they would like to need to disclose those carbon emission figures in their ESG report. Okay, so it is we'll recommend that we need to have a complete set of asset turnover ratio and also the carbon emission factors, etc. So as those kind of data disclosure will help the future policy formulation, etc. Okay, and the other point is that through our studies, when we look at the when we sample the financial institution regarding the asset management or others, we find that there are some financial institutions that they are either multinational financial institution or local financial institution. They are licensed in Hong Kong MA, but they are not listed in stock exchange. Okay, so for those non-listed, sorry, for those non-listed financial institutions, then they are so far they are not required to mandatory to disclose the ESG report. Okay, they are not required to do so. So we are proposing that the Hong Kong MN and SFC can also follow, just like Hong Kong Stock Exchange, that require all licensed financial institutions to submit the ESG report to cover all those covering the carbon emission, including the scope 3 data. Another point is that because there are some concern about that the ESG report, some of the company, although they are required to make certain disclosure, but there are some concern about the greenwashing, etc. So the reliability of the ESG data, then there is also have some concern. Therefore, there is also a growing demand for the mandatory assurance of the ESG report, such as one of the recommendations from another study, Green Project in Hong Kong by Professor Linda Lee as well. And also recently, actually, the International Auditing Standard Board they are also proposing the auditing standard, how to provide the sustainability assurance for this kind of ESG report, etc. So we expect that in the quite a near future that maybe mandatory assurance of ESG report will be a common consensus. Okay, so that is one of our suggestion. Okay, and then the other one is that if we have the if we can close those data gap, and also which can enhance the financial institution to have this kind of finance emission disclosure, then in a way that, because currently in Hong Kong, the economy is still in dominate to focusing on the high carbon sector, because high carbon sector are more mature, they will have more higher return and also more stable. Therefore, from the bank's perspective, of course, they would be more willing to grant loan to those kind of enterprise. And for low carbon emission enterprise, then they may be considered to have a higher risk. And also at the initial stage, it is very difficult for those kind of enterprise to obtain bank loan. Or if they can obtain the bank loan, then the interest rate may be higher to compensate for the bank's risk. Okay. Therefore, in this sense, is that if we would like to channel the financial resources or financing and investment activity from the high carbon enterprise to the low carbon enterprise, then it is the government may need to take more action by put forward some kind of policy to support this kind of low carbon emission enterprise. For example, supporting the bank to grant low interest loan to those low carbon emission enterprise. Or another way is that they may provide some kind of guarantee, or the other through this one is that another way is that the government can also try to more actively promote the green finance certificates. Okay, certification. Okay, because currently those enterprises that are obtaining the green finance certificates are those large enterprise, and they have the resources and they are willing to pay for that. Okay, and they are through negotiation with those certification agency. So if the government can more actively to promote this kind of green finance certificates, then the participating enterprise that get those green finance recognition, then they can more likely to obtain lower interest rate from the bank. And the government may in this aspect can also provide some kind of support or guarantees to in order to help to channel the fund to support those low carbon sector. The other aspect is that because in the regulatory reform or any new policy introduction, etc., basically in the past, the Hong Kong regulators, they are more taking a kind of taking the role of facilitator as a facilitator instead of put forward strict regulation directly. Okay, they will try to through consultation, try to get consensus from different practitioner or stakeholders, so as to in order to throw out some new policy or regulation. But in our opinion is that if we would like to transit from a high carbon economy to a low carbon economy more within to achieve the goal, okay, that because there are the timeline already set, okay. So we are in the opinion is that we suggest that the Hong Kong regulators can set more ambitious timeline and also set some kind of science-based performance indicator for leading the transition of the capital flow from high carbon economy to high carbon sector to the low carbon sectors. For example, the regulators can set a more comprehensive roadmap for climate disclosure and also set a more clear and quantifiable sustainable investment and financing structure goals that to support the transition to the carbon neutralities. The other suggestion is that because in other studies that there are interviews with those different practitioners who are involved in the green related jobs or activities. The overall opinion is that so far the quality, okay, or the of those practitioners are quite varied or diverse, okay. So we are suggesting that the government can collaborate with the academic institution to introduce a qualification framework so as to unify, okay, or to ensure that the quality of those practitioners involved in the green-related jobs. And in the long run, we consider that there may be a possibly to have a licensing system, just like, for example, qualified accountants. Okay, they need to have go through the examination and then the experience, etc. Okay, to get in order to get the license to practice. Okay, so these are some of our recommendations for discussion. And in summary, is that we will expect that we propose that the Hong Kong government and regulatory agencies should strengthen the disclosure requirement for the carbon emission, and particularly need to cover all licensed financial institutions, not just the listed financial institution. And also is that we hope that they can promote the green finance certification, and also look forward to the Hong Kong government and regulators that they can give a more clear and concrete
roadmap, okay, to how to reduce the carbon emission in Hong Kong for the financial institution. Okay, so thank you for your attention, and any comment or suggestion?
Well, I think we can go straightly to the discussion session.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, a while ago, I think I noticed, shall we go to the online audience, okay, participants? Because a while ago, you know, we addressed some questions from the in-person. Any questions, participants online? Yeah, can you just speak out, you know? I can see.
Hi there. This is Lionel from Civic Exchange. I think it's really good that you have these recommendations down. They're very clear, and I think to people probably in this room, the quite obvious things that we should be doing. But I feel like there are some things that the government is already doing, which you might want to look at from the policy perspective, like policy developments that have happened, which kind of speak to the things that you are talking about already. Like near the end, you mentioned the need for licensed professionals. And I think it would help to sharpen the message on maybe like trying to find ways to leverage existing certifications that already exist, like the HKIQEP. I think just there are instances like that where maybe the government's already doing what you're sort of at a high level recommending, and that might help to sharpen and figure out exactly, okay, what should they do next? Like within the assurance market, you know, there is, to an extent, on the green bond side, there is assurance for green bonds like at a voluntary level, and the government's already building that in the Hong Kong taxonomy. So I think maybe sharpening the message there and saying, okay, when it comes to assurance of green bonds under a Hong Kong taxonomy, like what should that look like, and just add a bit more on the nuance of that area. So just, I mean, maybe not a very like concrete recommendation myself, which is quite hypocritical, but the point is that there are some things already existing which could help sharpen the message that you guys are trying to communicate. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. I agree, you know, entirely, you know, and very good suggestion, you know, because yeah, so certainly the government is actually brewing a number of new measures, okay, and hopefully, you know, we look forward to, for instance, you know, the licensing, you know, or get raising the status, right, of the qualification of practitioners trained in environmental management, right? So this kind of developments is more than welcome. So yes, well taken. Okay, we would I think next step before we proceed with discussion engagement with more with the regulators and also with the government, we would have a second look more closely at the policy developments in the pipeline, put it this way, right? So that we can you know, discuss our findings and our further recommendations more targetedly, you know, in a more targeted way. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Actually, I have a questions because previously professors have used actually shares a lot of the information on the green finance issues and also the directions of Hong Kong. And I would like to emphasize that what are your recommendations for the SME? Because we've been seeing the HKM actually like trying to pushing that way, and also there will be some of the already have some like questionnaires for SME. And some of the bank clients would face difficulties to focus on that part, like how do SME clients to transit to low carbon practices. So, but the resources actually is also limited because, for example, the grant scheme actually like hard to become that those clients. So, like, what is your recommendation? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we discussed about this. You want to address this? The SME, I start with that. Okay.
Well, thanks for the question. Actually, I'm very glad that you raised the issue of SMEs. In fact, you know, Phyllis and I were involved in a separate project. Okay, a different project which is specifically investigated into the financial situations of the SMEs. And in that connection, we also, I think in our proposal on the international sustainability, climate change related standards consultation, we also suggested that special attention should be paid to the need of the SMEs. You know, because a lot of focus, most of the focus, okay, in the discussion are focused on the listed companies. And even for the unlisted, you know, focus is on the larger corporations, right? but majority of companies, business in Hong Kong are SMEs, and so the well-being is important, and of course the performance on ESG would affect the roadmap to decarbonization, right? So I think our initial recommendations, as I recall, was that we call for attention from the policymakers, from the government, that the needs of the SME need to be taken care of better. And of course, including our recently completed project on the situation of SMEs under COVID. Okay, under COVID, our findings was that the assistance schemes, okay, the various assistance schemes did not provide sufficient assistance to a major part of the SMEs community. And in fact, those are in greater stress, financial stress, put it this way, usually are not successful in getting those financial assistance under the government schemes. So we have kind of pointed that out, okay, in our study, and hopefully I think the government need to pay more attention to that, yeah, because it's not only helping the SMEs as such, because the SMEs activities would matters to the rest of the community, right? Yeah. Yes. Maybe in the future, you have any suggestions coming from the sector, to let us know. Okay. Yeah.
I think the government have a steering group. Okay, that is the cross-agency steering group. They have put the thing about the SME issue in one of their objectives, but we don't know what are the progress, what are the specific progress on this aspect. Okay, we do aware that they have put this on their maybe on one of their goal or objectives.
So maybe I think that is an improvement already, right? Yeah. That is on the agenda, right? Yeah. Because previously no mention at all on SMEs when we talk about this or all this. Yes. So maybe we can follow up. We can ask the government, for more information, more disclosure, more transparency. Yes, is it on a hand? Oh, yes. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Yes, hello. My name is Giacomi. I'm based in Switzerland, and I'm a senior strategist at the FinRec team of the Sunrise Project. And first of all, I wanted to thank you for your brilliant work. It's really good to see that finally, like you get for a whole financial center the assessment of the scope 1, 2, and 3 emission. I think this is brilliant. And also thank you for the policy recommendations. What I'm curious is if you think it's possible that based on your methodology to do also the same study for other financial centers, and then maybe develop kind of an index so that we have like an assessment of different financial centers, and then can compare that and maybe create kind of a race towards getting green, because when you have an index and you see like which financial centers is performing better than the other, then maybe frame also a narrative that to be a competitive financial center you need to like become green faster or something in that direction. That I think that would be really fascinating. And then what I ask myself is I like that you look into like the sector specific financed tons per million of CHC per $1 million. And what I ask myself is if it would be possible to get specific information on how much actually is invested in fossil fuel companies, fossil fuel exploration projects, compared to green energy, because at the moment, if you look at the energy sector, you have both in it. It's like you cannot differentiate between green and fossil fuel and brown. So I guess that would also then lead within the financial sector maybe to if they see with $1 you finance much more CO2 emissions when you invest in fossil fuels. It would maybe create an incentive to then start, divesting in this specific area. Yeah, these were my questions, and thank you again for your webinar.
Oh, okay, guys. Okay, so I think maybe I can answer your question. Actually, I think for your question, one is very good proposal. I think we can be able to make some index to compare, for example, different information and the performance for the financial emission. For example, maybe the intensity data can be some key information to present on the index. Maybe the value. I think it's the first one. And second part, the part of it is I think it's also possible. Actually, I want to share maybe this slide to you. Actually, I think can answer your question for whether we can incorporate more details of sector information to present on the investment flow to certain business, for example, to renewable energy. So actually, we know some other model and some other data source. The other model they do include much more details. The sectorial information. For example, we have the EIO model. In the model, they can contain about, for example, 130 sectors. It means maybe very detailed sectorial information. So if we combine the counting on the carbon footprint with this kind of the model, for example, the EIO model, actually we can further divide into, for example, for the capital flow, they go to the different detailed business like the power plant, fossil fuel power plant, and also renewable energy power plant. So we can do this part, I think, and also we can also account for the much more detailed carbon emission for certain business like the renewable energy and maybe even for example, even for the hydrogen and also for power plant. It's still possible. Actually, it's our the first plan to do this work. Why I propose this approach to improve the current calculation approach. I hope I can help you answer your questions. Yeah, thank you so much.
So thanks for the question. So in other words, the short answer is yes. Okay. Yes, we do have a plan. Oh, sorry, I need to unmute myself.
So our paper actually is ongoing. So it's published on December. Submitted on December. So I hope we can share to you.
We have initial paper first. Yes.
I'm looking at this table. It would appear that we're very green compared to the other financial sectors.
Yeah,
it's because of the industry structure.
Yes.
I mean, we're greener than Singapore by half of so.
Maybe Hong Kong still have a potential to translate. Yes. Yeah, right. We also think about on the behind the total economic structure is also important for the benchmarking and comparison. Yeah. So if you look into the number in Hong Kong and USA and UK, actually there's no big difference. But I believe Hong Kong should be maybe even lower. Yeah, it's our actually the effort in the near future. Yeah.
I think that has been articulated clearly in the report. I think it's in the second paper. So on one hand, no, in the third one, the table 1 in the third one. Because on the one hand, just look at the figures. Yes, certainly Hong Kong is green, okay, relatively green, okay. But when you look at an apple is not entirely the same as an orange, right? So the acidity obviously is different. So I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Yes, Albert?
Let's comment on the ESG assurance. So I know you suggest the ESG assurance, but I guess probably that is not very. I think the market is not very ready for ESG assurance. Different don't really have enough resources who know auditing and also ESG. And for those auditors, they don't really have the concept of ISSB, carbon accounting, scope 1, 2, 3, you need to train them up. So that's one thing. I think you mentioned as well, training the resources. And then for bank finance division, if you need ESG assurance, so that means those banks, they have to get the ESG data, the carbon emission data, scope 3 from the investee, from the bank borrowers and mortgage. So basically, these are those corporates. Some are listed companies, and some are private, and some are SME, just like my colleague mentioned. So they may not really have the data available, and the quality of data, and also if those ESG data are not assured, and then they send it to the bank, even if the bank get the ESG assurance. Basically, garbage in, garbage out. So that means they are also not really being assured. So I think that probably that recommendation is a little bit premature from my perspective. So I just want to find that out.
Yeah. Well, I think thanks for the flag. I think we are aware of that. So we are saying, after some transition. But I think it's important to have a vision, right? To have an objective, and then step up the preparation, because the earth is not waiting for us. My goodness, right? We can always say that we need a lot more time, but the fact is, I think everybody needs to step up. That's the message.
So I think we also need some training for the PCF. Actually, so when I do the calculation, actually, I read through the whole guidance on PCF. Actually, it's very difficult to understand. Even myself, is a scholar in the carbon footprint. Actually, when I read the doc, actually, sometimes it's very difficult for me to understand some terminology. Yeah.
It was a lot of the estimation.
Yeah.
Also, with different standards, so we auditing without global recognized standard. And also involve a lot of judgment and on the estimate. So actually, I'm actually from EY. So actually, I can speak on behalf of the big firms in terms of doing this type of ESG assurance. I think it's very difficult for us to give a reasonable assurance opinion. If that involves too much of the estimate and judgment, and also without a recognized standard.
Yeah, I think now all the ESG assurance are only limited assurance. Yes, they as far as I know, most of them are limited assurance, yes. Not reasonable assurance.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, and actually the HPICPA are now working on, or in response to the international standard, looking at the new audit assurance standard for auditing this kind of ESG data. But in the proposed exposure draft, they are talking about the assurance are also include some of those very qualitative or judgmental aspects, including culture. Mm-hmm. So actually, I sit for that advisory panel, and I have question about how to provide assurance or how to look at the culture.
Oh, you need a political scientist. I can do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Kevin from Carbon Piano Lab. Actually, I've been following your research for for more or less a year, I think. So I've been actually quite concerned about actually what kind of methodology and what results actually we are interested to. Actually, I can see that two main limitations in this. So the one is actually about the jurisdiction, and actually means that we're concerned about the cross-border capital flow into a sector which actually maybe Hong Kong has no idea about that. And actually which jurisdictions is actually in charge of that particular capital investments. I think this is one thing that it is hard to really track, and whether it belongs to Hong Kong or not belongs to Hong Kong. I think this is the first thing. And the second thing is actually about the sector coefficient or the emission factor from particular sectors. I think it is also there's actually no standard or no universal value for this kind of sectors. Maybe in Hong Kong or in different places, they have different coefficient. So this is the second challenge. I would like to hear more about, because I suppose you may have conducted some kind of digital review before doing this kind of study, maybe, or if you borrow some kind of lessons from other similar studies from other countries, I'm not sure. But if you could let us know what study, and how we can improve, where we can refine this study so that we can maybe generalize, or maybe it's hard to say, to differentiate the responsibility between Hong Kong and other countries. Like actually, I also know that in your third paper, actually also talking about comparison, which actually another participant already mentioned about the study. And so I'm quite curious actually, when you look at those the data from other countries, do they have similar concern or similar difficulties in handling this kind of data? So it would be helpful to hear about more about from your side, from your team, actually the experience in conducting this kind of research. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so maybe I can answer the second question for carbon emission factor. Actually, we do have some very global, actually, the well-made actually the database to have the emission factor. For the Excel base is a global level base. They include the carbon emission factor for different sectors and by region, very detailed information we can borrow. Actually, this is also something we can do in the future. And for Hong Kong, actually, Hong Kong only have the carbon emission data in 4 sectors: construction and manufacturing and transportation and waste. So it's far from enough to make the localized data. So maybe Hong Kong government can report more carbon emission data more detailed, so we can calculate by ourselves. So with the more localized data is also very good data in the future, I think. And also maybe so if we look into the carbon counting research, for example, in the UK, USA, and also Canada, they also have the double counting issue. It's actually very difficult, I think. Maybe we have to establish some global standard and guidance for all the countries to follow the same, maybe the indicator and the rules, so then we can reduce this kind of double counting. Maybe also even they go to the global carbon emission, there's also double counting in the UN, actually counting. So it's a global concerns. I think I hope our academy can do some contribution in the near future. This is maybe your second question. Thank you, Kevin.
Yes.
So jurisdiction, maybe Linda is the professional, so I'm.
I think we talked about the jurisdiction a while ago. So the intention is, regardless where the projects, whether it's a power plant or a factory or whatever, right? The money goes to. Wherever they may end up, as long as the financing is done in Hong Kong through a Hong Kong licensed institution, that would fall within the finance emissions of Hong Kong. So that's I don't think that there's a problem for that. So of course, if the data is more refined, in other words, then we can have a better data. How much money goes to where. I mean the location of those projects. Then we can do more a better analysis. But right now, those data is simply not available to researchers. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, my question is related to the emission analysis of factors. So I come from real estate sector and I'm an engineer, construction engineer. So when we look at, let's say, a building which is being built in Hong Kong, so let's say some of that investment has gone for building a project in Hong Kong, right? And we see that materials come from China, Europe, and many other places. And depending on where the material is coming from, the emission factors differ a lot, right? Even if it's coming from China, at which part of China it's coming from, how it's manufactured, how it's processed, and that affects emission factors quite a lot. Like when I say quite a lot, just to give you an example, when you look at say facade panel, it could vary different 10 times the emission factor, X to 10X, depending on where it's being procured from, right? So when we say, so when it's mentioned in the paper that infrastructure industry or manufacturing industry, but we know that that industry doesn't, I mean, manufacturing doesn't really exist in Hong Kong, so we know these things come from somewhere else. So how is that related?
Okay, so I think I can answer the question. Actually, the foundation for calculating on the factor is the factor will be in this way. So maybe the company belong to the sector will report their consumption for energy. You know, the carbon emission will finally come from energy consumption multiplied by the coefficient by energy, right? So, for example, for the company belong to one sector, they will report their consumption for energy, and they will use the reported carbon emission from energy consumption to present the carbon emission for that sector. This is the way how we can translate the carbon emission into the by sector carbon emission. There is no location issues actually. So the company in China belong to the maybe the manufacturing will report their emission data, and we use that data to account for the carbon emission factor for manufacturing sector in China. It's in this way actually. It's come from it's come from the end use consumption to calculate the by sector carbon emission data. It will reflect maybe the different company's condition in the one region and also for one sector.
Right. So when we basically use a manufacturing related emission factor for Hong Kong.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
For real estate sector.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Actually, may not be related because the number that should be should be actually China.
Hong Kong government will report the carbon emission from the different sectors, like manufacturing and the construction. So we use that emission data to divide by the money value to have the emission factor. This is the way we do in Hong Kong. I think it's the similar way in other countries and regions. So of course there will be some uncertainty and also overlapping, but it's actually a very the common way by IPCC. You know, they also recommend this way to have the carbon emission factor. It's mainly based on the on-site emission principle. So we use the on-site company's data to calculate the emission for that sector and to get the factor for that sector. This is the basic principle in scientific way. Yeah.
So actually, one of our recommendations is actually, call for more efforts to work out the emission factors in Hong Kong, right? So it's only 4 sectors available, right? Data on 4 sectors are available right now.
I think if we look into Hong Kong, actually, so if we look into Hong Kong, the accounting actually the data actually they do have the much more detailed data, for example, for jobs and for the output for many sectors, but for carbon emission only the aggregated 4 sectors. This is maybe some major gap in Hong Kong experience. Maybe we can maybe encourage the company can report maybe more carbon emission information, so we can have a more detailed carbon data and to compile even the more specific and detailed carbon inventory, maybe one direction for Hong Kong in the near future. Yeah.
So there is a chicken and egg relations, because why we don't have such a sectoral emission factor data is because we don't have sufficient disclosed information.
Because carbon emission is very simple, just come from the fossil fuel consumption. So if we have the fossil fuel consumption data from all the sectors, we will have the carbon emission factor. It's the basic foundation. So I think the reason why in Hong Kong we didn't have so much carbon emission information because Hong Kong have not so many the sectors as well. Maybe if you look into the environmental accounting data, they also only have the 4 sectors: the construction and the manufacturing and the power plant and also maybe transportation. It's the major reason, I think.
Well, going back to the big gap that Albert mentioned, okay, I need to say it goes back to education. So I'm going to do some advertisement, okay? City University is going to launch a new program on sustainability policy and development studies, okay, in the coming year. So we are starting recruitment, hopefully next week, okay? Because there's been some delay. We hope to start sooner, but we haven't rolled out yet. But should start in December. So please watch out. Yes. Well, this is a small step, definitely. Okay, we still have to hone our programs, and we need support from the field. Okay, but I think it is going to be a benign cycle. We hope, all right, and then hopefully, we work together to close the gap a little bit by a little bit.
to add to Linda's promotion is that for accounting, okay, our accounting department also start to launch a ESG stream for undergraduate students.
Well, I noticed that time is running out, so may I ask whether we have any last questions either in this room or online? Well, if not, well, we like to have your feedback, okay? Please use the QR code. You know, the QR code on feedback. Ray, can you go to that? Yeah, the questionnaire link. So we need your feedback. And the policy papers have been emailed to all of you, and then we also have the policy paper QR code also on PowerPoint. So, you know, please, you know, drop us a line, okay? Anytime, you know, to one of our email address. You know, tell us your thoughts, any thoughts, okay? Any thoughts, whether you like it, dislike it, hate it, find there's too much gaps, right? And then, or you like to join our team, okay, so that we can work together, please let us know. Okay. Yeah.